This is the web page that I've dropped in the chat for you. It's got all the resources for today, our learning objectives. So what we'll do is import a PowerPoint presentation into Adobe Express. Often you'll want students to do presentations over PowerPoints, or that's how they'll want to present. So we'll show you how to do that and make that a video. Then that slide can be animatable and it gets converted into a video project. We'll import a video into your project and remove the background. So that's a separate video that maybe you've recorded. And then we'll use animate from audio to add another element to that video, add a soundtrack. We'll adjust the volumes a little bit, and then I'll show you how to share and download your video. So this link should take you straight into Adobe Express if you click on that. And then this first video is just a bit of an introduction video that you can view at your own leisure. All right, so firstly, importing slides into Adobe Express. It's really quite easy if you start with your PowerPoint. So these are the slides that I'm going to use today. File, save as Adobe PDF. That will take you straight into the PDF. I won't do that because I've already done it, and just to save a little bit of time. So here's my PDF here. If you have Adobe Acrobat Pro, then this is what your interface will look like. And then when you go into the edit tools, see all tools and then edit, you'll see these design tools, and that will import it into Adobe Express. So you can go in that way. If you don't have Acrobat Pro, then in Adobe Express homepage, you'll see this start from your content, and then you can select content here. And here we go. Here's my content, and it will upload that. There's my slides. That'll take a minute, and then you'll end up with your slides in Adobe Express like this. You probably won't have that. So it'll sort of look like this. And then you'll have your different slides here. So that automatically will make it a video as soon as you animate part of it. So if you want to click on any of those objects, could be text or it could be that heart there, to animate it, click animate down here, and then you can choose how to animate. So I'll bungee that one in, and then you can change the duration of the animation. So that bungee was a little bit short. Let's make it maybe a couple of seconds, 1.5 seconds. Yeah, I like that. And then looping. So while it's in, you can sort of get it to do something if you like. Might be, what does a jitter look like? Sure, let's go for a jitter. And then you can animate it out if you like as well. So I always like a fade to animate out, I think is nice. And then the heart I've already animated as a fade in, and then it's going to pulse like a heart pulses and then fade out. So as soon as you put those animations in, this project becomes a video project, and you can click on edit timeline and you'll see your timeline comes up here. When you click on each of the elements, they get inserted into the timeline. So this is a pretty basic video editor. It's much simpler than your Premiere Pro as a video editor, and it's even a bit simpler than Premiere Rush if you're familiar with that. With those tools, what you'll see is the layers get stacked and stacked and stacked, and you can select your layers in the in that timeline. But for Adobe Express, it does the same thing, but to see the element, to see the object in your timeline, you need to have it selected. So I can see that this animation will start at the very beginning. For the heart, that starts at the very beginning as well. Let's just check in and see where we're at here. Okay, so yes, we've started. We've done some animation. Great, let's keep going. What I might do before we keep going is I'll show you what my timelines look like. So this is how I sort of set up my slick and simple videos. I make lots of these videos because I do lots of instructional videos. So these are videos from previous webinars that maybe you recognize. And you can see where the scenes have been cut up. So the way that I do these videos is I'll just go ahead and do the thing on the screen, and I'll just make sure I'm filming my screen. And I make lots of mistakes and I take too long here and there, or I sort of click in the wrong thing. And so that's why you can see that these scenes are actually cut up. So this is now a 5-minute video, but when I actually filmed it, it was something like 15 minutes. So to make it nice and slick and simple, you need to cut out those bits that you don't really want. And then to speed it up as well, what I've actually done, instead of all my clicking being in real time, when you click into that video, you can actually change the speed here. So this part here is in real time, and that's deliberate because I need that minute to talk you through all the things that are happening. But this one here is at 2 times speed. So all the clicking happens much, much faster, twice as fast. And then when I'm voicing over, it's in about the right amount of time. So that sort of brings me to the next part of my videos. And so my formula with my videos is that I want to film the process and then edit and clip the process so that it's as short and as slick as it can be. And then I want to voice over that. So you can obviously record your voice through the mic as you're doing this video, but it limits you a little bit to how you can actually voice over the video that you're doing. You can also, when you cut these bits up, you can mute it if you like. So for these, it's the volume's up because I actually didn't talk when I did it. I didn't have the microphone on, but you can mute it if you like. So what I like to do is do my voiceover. So here's my voiceover, and you can see that I've done it in bits as well. So when I do my voiceover, I actually play through the video and start the voiceover where I want it to happen. And I'm just describing what I'm doing and talking a little bit about what I'm doing in that video as we go along. And then I've done that bit and I stop the voiceover. And then I sort of have a look at what's happening in the next bit. All right, yeah, that's what I need to talk about. And then I start my voiceover again. This part here where I've clipped that voiceover, I've probably made a mistake, stuttered or done something, and I've clipped a little bit out and then continued on with a new voiceover. So once you've done that, as you play through, you kind of just get my voice like you're hearing now. And it's not necessarily the most, I guess, nice thing to your ears. So it sometimes helps to have a little bit of music in the background. So I choose these sort of easy listening sort of music tracks that loop in. And so you can see that loop the whole way through, but I don't want it to be too loud. So I make sure I turn the volume right down. And then you can still hear me speaking, but we have this soothing sort of music happening in the background, which just makes it a little bit easier to the ear. So I'll show you what that sounds like. Let me know if you have audio. Give me a thumbs up, Lynn, if you got audio from that. No audio. Okay, never mind that. The last bit is to make sure your videos are super slick and that people, when they actually see the cover of your video, they know that they want to click into that video. It's handy to have an opening slide or an opening scene in your video. So I actually have this opening scene set up as a template so I can insert them into any of my videos, and I'll show you how I do that. So I pop that in, and then there's this nice transition as you go through the video. So that transition sort of helps you to know, yep, all right, now we're moving into the video. These scenes, the changes of these scenes don't have transitions because I want that to be as seamless as possible. And because they're on the same sort of screen, you can see that the actual Adobe Express sort of window doesn't change that much. It's not that harsh if you see that scene change without a transition. And so that's what happens all the way through there. And then at the end, we're transitioning into the closing scene. And then this is a template, an official template from Adobe that I add, and I have that as a template there as well. So this is sort of my formula for slick and simple videos. Have an opening and a closing scene, transitioning into your main content. Go ham on your main content. Don't worry about if you're filming too much or whatever. Make sure you get everything that you want in there and then cut it up later on. I always add a voiceover and then I add a little bit of background music just to make it a bit easier on the ears. And I think that that makes videos nice, slick and simple. And really, I don't want my videos to be going longer than 5 minutes. I think that's about a maximum for me. So most of my videos that you'll see will be, between 1 and 5 minutes. All right, so I just wanted to show you that as a bit of an example of a finished product, and then I'll take you through some of the steps with this to sort of show you how you might do this with your students.
So just asked a question in the chat.
Yeah,
Eric,
great.
Does the Express come with a range of music already? So there's like, you know how you've got some images that you can select because they're free from copyright and stuff. Is there some music that's already in there, some background music that?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So all of that background music that I've used comes from Adobe Stock Audio. So if you go to media here, you have audio and you can search here. And I like guitar, so I always search acoustic. And then you get these sort of different, and I look for ones that say loop, and it depends how long my video is. If it's sort of 5 minutes and there's a loop that goes for a minute, then that can kind of loop 5 times. And the best thing to do is to sort of try and make sure that your loop finishes as close to the end as possible, because it can be a little bit abrupt if the music just stops sort of at the end. So I'm a bit conscious of that when I'm putting my music in, because you can't really fade the audio. So in Premiere Pro or in Audition, you can fade your audio really easily. Not so here. What you can do is sort of cut it up and have different bits and change the volume, but it doesn't go, it goes by integers. So you can't have like a decimal percentage. And so if you go down from 5% to 4% to 3%, it's quite rigid, that change in volume, and it's not really a fade. So I don't use it like that. If you are really keen to do a fade, you could always go into Adobe Audition, put your track in there and do the fade in Audition, save your file, and then import your file into Express, and that should work. All right, we'll get a bit to audio in a little bit as well. I just want to show you how you can edit the timeline. So with this, when you import your slides, there'll just be this one scene in there. And then your second slide, this is actually kind of a second project now. So what I did to get this slide into my first video project, and you can see it's not a video project, there's no timeline here. I just selected everything, hit Control-C for copy, and then added a scene. So when you add a scene, it'll add a blank page here, and then Control-V will paste it in. So that's what I did to get this slide in here. So now I've got my 2 scenes. I'll delete. Actually, I do want a new scene. But I'll pop that in later on. We'll get started with some animation. So this one, we've already done an animation. So that's going to begin like this. All right, happy with that. And then this slide here isn't animated. So to animate, what I want to do, what's the first thing that I want to animate in is probably, I'm going to do the cells part first. So I want to have these 2 bits. So if I want to select 2 things, I can hold, apologies. Hold Control, no, hold Shift. Select Shift, and then that selects everything. That means anything I do now with animation will do it to both of these things. I want them both to come in at the same time. So I want them to come in at the start here. So here I can animate. For these ones, I just want them to fade in and then stay. And then I don't want them to fade out. Or do I? I will have them fade out when the next bit comes in. All right, so here you can see the timeline here. Yes, I want that to come in like that. And then I can adjust how long that actually happens. So let's have a look to see what that animation looks like. In and then out. Okay. This part here wasn't fading out. Deal with that later. And then I want my text to fade in just a little bit afterwards. So let's go down animation. I want that to fade in, fade, and then I also want it to fade out. Okay. And then here, and you can see the timing of my cell here. So this is when it starts, and I want it to come in a little bit later. And I want it to fade out. I'll keep it there for now. All right. So let's have a look at how that looks quickly. It's my introduction slide. Okay. So let's go back. Just going to stretch this one out a little bit for now. Okay. So there's some animations in there. It's kind of hard to really do the timing because you want to understand like where your voiceover is going to be, how long am I going to speak for, those kinds of things. So what I'll do first is for my introduction, I'm going to use animate from audio to introduce my presentation. So to do animate from audio, we'll go back to the home page, but I want to leave this project open because I'm going to bring in that animate from audio afterwards. So I'll go into a new window. We'll cancel that. We don't need that. In quick actions, we have animate from audio. All right. And then I've chosen the doctor because that's kind of relevant to the circulatory system. And then the background is a transparent background. You can choose whatever you like, change the sizes, whatever you like. Once you're ready to record, then you can enhance speech, and that's going to take out some of that background noise. And then you can do your recording. All right, here we go. Welcome to my presentation about the circulatory system, where we'll talk about cells and tissues in the circulatory system. Nice and quick. Take a minute. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds before I go into my backup. Okay. And obviously, the longer you make your animation, the longer it's going to take to process and upload, etc. I'm using a little bit of bandwidth here, so it'll take a little bit longer. But yeah, you need to be a little bit patient with these things sometimes. All right, so you can preview it if you like. I'll just open it in the editor. So once you open the project in the editor, that then makes it an Adobe Express project, and you'll be able to find it in your stuff. So let's just test it here and see if it works. Okay, I'm not sure if you were able to hear that volume.
We can't hear it.
No, yeah. That's all right, but take my word for it, it worked. Okay, so now what I want to do is go back to my project over here. And then if I look in my stuff, then I should see it in here. Maybe a refresh will do it. Luckily, I did one before, so that's here as well. But take my word for it, once you refresh it, your project will end up there. So like mine ends up here, and then you can add it as a page. And when you add it as a page, what it will do is add it to your project on the end here. So this is one I did earlier just to save a little bit of time. So then you have it in your project, but it's kind of not actually in that video where you want it. So how to get it in there is just click on the element, Control C or copy, and then go back to the page where you want it. And then you can Control V, paste, and then there it is, and resize it and place him where you'd like to place him. Okay. All right, so then you won't hear it, but he's speaking there. All right, so what's happened is at the end here, he gets cut off, and that's because this scene here isn't long enough. So I think when I saw it, the duration of this was about 11 seconds, and I can check it on my other file there. But what you can do, if you drag the edges in or out, this trims or extends the scene, right? So you can see here now, when that heart disappears, so there you can see where he disappears. That's how long that speech is. So now, because we've got a fade out on these two, but that looks like it's worked. All right, let's see. Okay, so once you've done that, then you have your scene, first scene done, and they fade out, all good. And then we're going into the next scene. So we've done a bit of a fade in for those ones. I want to change these elements so that they come in afterwards. I'll just do them all together just for time's sake. So let's animate these and we'll fade them in. Yep, and we'll just keep them in there. That's all good. Now let's see the layer timing for these ones. Make them all the same there. Show me the layer timing. All right. One at a time, I guess. All right, so here, what I'll do is I want to bring them in a little bit after. So I'll bring them right up to that cursor there, and then the same thing for these other elements. We have to do one by one, which is a little bit annoying, but that's okay. You can actually see where that other one has been timed. There, so we'll bring them so they're all equal. Last one. I can select it. There it is. All right. So that they're all equal. Great. So let's see how this animates. That comes in, that, and then that. All right. Cool. So that's ready. Well, let's have a look at the start here. Actually, we'll trim this a bit because it's a bit long. Okay. And there's the rest of it there. Okay, good. So I've animated my slides where I want, but I just need a voiceover or someone to speak to this slide here. So what you can also do is import video that you've taken from elsewhere. And you can see in my stuff here, I've actually already done that. But to do that, if you go to the home page, we can discard that one. Again, start from your content. And you can start from any content. Well, you can use MP4 files. You can bring in PDF files. You can also bring in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator files. So click the circulatory system one there. And then this MP4 will then be imported. So create new, and that will start a new project. So this is what I filmed before. And then that'll start a new project like it did for the animate from audio, and you'll be able to access it from your stuff. So in this, let's have a look here. To then bring it into your project, again, go to your stuff and just click on the file and then add it as pages. If you add it as an image, it will go into that scene, but it'll be an image, not a video. So make sure you add it as a page. And then, so this was the raw footage here. What you can do with raw footage, and I've got a green screen behind me just because I've got a few things sort of behind me that interrupts the background a little bit. But if you want to remove the background of your video, it's really easy. Just click remove background. It takes a couple of minutes, so I won't do that now. And if you've got a green screen, great, it'll remove it nice and crisply. But you don't necessarily need to have a green screen. If you've got something that's pretty clear background, it'll remove that background for you. And so here's that removed background there. So now I want to bring this into copy. I want to bring this into my video project, which was over, choose this one, click into it. All right. And paste. All right, there it is. You can see it's nice and big. Take a minute to load me up. Well, I'm in that one, so we don't want me in there. We do want me in this scene here. Okay, so that's put me in that scene there. Here we go. And then, so this obviously could be your students if they wanted to, or your students might prefer just to use animate from audio if they're a bit camera shy. So then I'm in the corner, and you can see here now the timeline's going way, way, way out here. So I just need to extend this a little bit. All right, so there's a bit of speech there. All right, and then I'm conscious that you won't be able to hear me, but now you can see just freezing up a little bit because of the bandwidth. But once it sort of settles down, then you'll have that there, and then you can actually use the speech. You can use the speech of your voiceover to sort of time your animations when you want the different things to come in. So if I'm talking about cells up until sort of here, talking about cells until here, that's when you want your cells to fade out. And then I'm talking about body tissues, that's when you want your body tissues to come in, etc. So it takes a little bit of playing to sort of fade in and fade out and get all your timing happening. The main thing to remember is to actually see the timing, you need to click on the elements, and the different elements can be, the timing can be adjusted just by trimming. If you want to split bits out, so let's say, all right, well, I'm waffling on somewhere in here. Let's, so if you right click in your scene, then you can actually split your scene and cut bits in and out. So if I split that there, it'll split the scene, etc. And then you can put a transition there if you like. All right, so let's say, all right, I'm pretty happy with all the scenes. I do want to just add a scene, an opening scene. So let's add a scene. We'll trim that down. I want it to be a couple of seconds, and then you can click and drag it and it'll bring it right to the front, and then you can still trim and do whatever you like here. So now in this scene, I want that to be my opening scene. And I've got a scene that I use for lots of videos saved in my templates, and that's it here. So I can click that there. That's going to say start a new file. So you might want to, if you're going to start a video, start a new file, you could start with the template. Or if I just highlight everything, copy it, and then go back to my previous file. Here it is. There's my new scene, and paste it. There it is, and it's just sized funny because it's used the aspect ratios for the PowerPoint and not for. Let's group all that. So you can sort of resize, bring it in, and reorganize. But so this is, if you get your aspect ratios right, that won't happen. That's because this is sized for a video, and then when I brought those slides in, they're not necessarily sized the same. So you can resize up here. You can see it's actually, the size here is quite small. So if you want to resize it, the preset that I use is video here. So that would be a good thing to do right at the start. And then everything would sort of come in. So let's do this here, resize for video, resize. So a bit of work there to be done. And then for my final scene, similar thing. We can bring in from my stuff this final scene. Ask me to start a new file. Okay, and so here's my template. Let's go back to my other project. Let's resize this. That size looks all right already because I've resized it there. All right, and whack that in there. Just have one more go at fixing this up. Delete that. This again. Okay. Copy. Let's go back. So now you can see the size is the size I want it. Let's paste that in there. Much nicer. All right, cool. So now I've got all my scenes in place. The next thing to do is to add some audio. So these, because I've recorded audio with these videos there, I don't need to do a voiceover, but if you hadn't done that, you could do a voiceover. And to do that, go into media and then record voiceover. When you record a voiceover, you can start recording 3, 2, 1, and it automatically starts the timeline and you record your voiceover over the timeline. All right, so we'll cancel that. I don't need that one. Let's get out of voiceover. You can upload audio from your device if you've done some fancy audio in Audition, something like that, or just use the stock audio here. So I like to use the acoustics, like I said before. So let's something acoustic. Spell acoustic correctly, Drew. All right, we'll go for Celtic Moon. I'm conscious that you can't hear the audio, but you can sort of see where it's coming on the timeline. And what I always do with my volume is turn it down to about 5%, and then that should be just a nice background sort of tone in the background of my video.
Can
My
I ask a
animation,
question about the
voicing over.
audio?
And then going into speaking over. Okay, and finished. So there's a little bit of work to do in there with the animations and the timing, etc. But all of my elements are in there, right? And I would usually, for me, I'd probably do a video and probably take me an hour, maybe 45 minutes to do one that's really sharp and slick and simple and exactly sort of how I want it. So that we've sort of done that in about half an hour, another 15 minutes to do those sort of the timings, and you're there with your video. So for your students, might take them a little bit longer. A good project for them to do. So it might be something that you extend your kids with if they sort of finish a little bit early, or they've done, when they're doing that. Oh, Mr. Drew, I'm finished. What do I do now? How about you try making a video? And then you can sort of enable them with some of this. Even just give them this web page resource, and they might be able to get to it themselves. Cool. All right, I need to touch base with this resource to make sure I've covered everything. I think we've done that. And we've done animate from audio as well. And we are at time. So the last thing while I still have you is just to share and download. So you can download as an MP4. It will automatically prompt you to do an MP4. You can do the other ones here, but that won't be a video. Or you can share. If you want people to collaborate on it, this is a collaborative link here. If you want people to, or if you want to publish it, so you want people to have access to it, but you don't have a YouTube channel, you can publish it to the web. You can make it a remixable template if you like, or just publish that link. And when you publish that link, it'll take a little while to publish that. But then what you can do is just share that link, and anyone with that link will be able to see your video. It'll just come up in a web screen, sort of like this, right? So that's a really easy way to share your videos in a nice, safe way. So if you get any kids to submit to Daymap or whatever, it's just submitting a link and there's your video, so they don't need to upload a whole MP4.